busting nut after nut.
Huh? I love Australian Survivor. The longer episodes, the brutal challenges, the amazing editing. What? The editing actually completely sucks most seasons? I still love it, you can't stop me. Uneven editing is just a part of Survivor, and Australian Survivor is notorious for it. Pop quiz. What is this contestant's name? Don't look it up, leave your guesses in the comments, I'll pin the first person to get it right. Bet does uneven editing make a season bad? To find out, let's rank every season of Australian Survivor, not based on how much I enjoyed them or how good they are, which are wildly different things sometimes considering I kind of love Survivor South Pacific. Instead, I'm ranking the seasons based on the fairness of the edit. Again, shout out the Survivor R dataset making these analysis videos possible, linked in the description, and shout out to this commenter who recommended I rank the seasons of Australian Survivor this way. So how do we calculate a fair edit? The best metric I have is confessional count. Here's our methodology. Step 1. Sum up every confessional in a given season. So for Australian Survivor 2016, there were 1,093 confessionals. Step 2. Sum up every episode in which a player was eliminated. This gives us 355 for Australian Survivor 2016. If we don't ignore non-elimination episodes, it messes up our math later down the line. And for that reason, 26 was added 3 times, as 3 players left the game in that episode. Step 3. Divide total confessionals by the elimination episode sum and voila! We get a very long float. For Australian Survivor 2016, looks like this. If every contestant got that many confessionals per episode, we would end up with the same number of total confessionals across the season, and everyone would have the same average number of confessionals per episode. The edit would be perfectly even. Now we go through each castaway and calculate how many confessionals they should have had. Des was in 1 episode, he had 11 confessionals. If the season were perfectly edited, he would have had this many confessionals. Evan was in 3 episodes, he should have had this many confessionals, instead he had 23. We take how many confessionals they had, subtract how many they should have had, and we get a misallocated confessional count. This number is positive if you're over-edited and negative if you're under-edited. Sum up the absolute value of this for all of the players and you get the total number of misallocated confessionals in a season. Finally, we divide this number by total confessionals in the season because some seasons just have more confessionals than others, and we get the percentage of confessionals in the season that were misallocated. With that, we can rank every season of Australian Survivor based on how uneven the edit was, starting with Australian Survivor, Titans vs Rebels. For each season I've constructed a graph. It shows you how far away each player is from what would be the perfectly equal edit. Here's a graph to show the results for this season. The closer you are to 0, the closer you are to having the amount of confessionals you'd get on a perfectly evenly edited season. 69.18% of the confessionals on this season were misallocated. In Titans vs Rebels, First received around 80 more confessionals than a perfect edit would have given him, and Kirby 64. The main issue with the season is that you were either over-edited, like Ferris, Kirby, Caroline and Mark, or completely under-edited, like Winner, Eileen, Jaden, Rihanna, Kitty, and my boy Raymond. We were so fucking robbed of Raymond content. Release the Raymond cut. I demand you release the Raymond cut right now. This editing issue even extends to the pre-merge, where everyone is under-edited, except the first 3 boots, with only Peter being anywhere close to receiving the edit we'd expect. This season may not have distributed the confessionals super evenly, but I think that speaks pretty clearly that an even season might not be the most exciting season, because this season is phenomenal. The best edited season? Not by a long shot. My favourite season? Fuck yeah. Raymond heads, rise up. Coming in at number 8 we have Australian Survivor, Brawn vs Brawn, with 58.28% of their confessionals being misallocated. If we compare this chart to the previous chart, it doesn't actually look too bad. A similar shape, a few people over-edited, a few people under, but hopefully you learned how to properly read graphs in your high school stats class. Look at the x-axes. These fuckers aren't the same scale. We'll normalize these scales now, and keep them normalized for the rest of the seasons. We can now see one man stands above the rest. One shining, beautiful, over-edited man. The second most over-edited contestant in Australian Survivor history, George from Brawn vs Brawn. But not only were George and Hayley super over-edited, you had other contestants being way under-edited. Someone tell me one defining trait about Andrew. Literally anything. Please. I'm begging you. I genuinely forgot there was a Chelsea this season. And Way! I love Way at the start, but she just slowly drifted away. Heartbreaking. Despite all of this, I still love this season. It's up there as one of the best Australian Survivor seasons. Maybe an even edit isn't what makes for the most compelling story. Maybe you need standout characters like George to sell a season. Without that, who is there to root for? We'll keep an eye out for this trend. If the next few seasons are all bangers, I have a theory about what makes Australian Survivor so compelling. Holy shit, it's another banger. Champions vs Contenders 2 was my favourite season of Australian Survivor when it first aired, with 53.28% of the confessionals being misallocated. I remember when the season came out, there were many complaints of the likes of Harry, Luke, and David especially being over-edited. My, how times have changed. It's actually not the over-editing that does this season in. It's the extreme under-editing of a lot of the castaways. Sam made it 7 episodes and got 0 confessionals the entire time. I'm sorry, how does this happen? Was she mute? Did she lose her voice on day 1? Hannah managed to make it 10 episodes with 2 confessionals. That's wild. What does Australian Survivor have against pretty blonde people? Speaking of which, even Matt got no content. This dude is a professional wrestler in WWE, you can't tell me he wasn't good for the cameras. And Baden, another personal favourite of mine. How do you only get 23 confessionals? Despite this, despite all of these complaints, we're 3 for 3 in absolute bangers of seasons appearing. All 3 of these seasons, I'd happily watch any day of the week. Big characters, memorable characters, these are what make a season good when it's well done. And Australian Survivor does big characters well. Let's see who's next. We have Australian Survivor Heroes vs Villains, with 50.48% of its confessionals being misallocated. Remember how I said George from Brawn vs Brawn was the second most over-edited contestant of all time? Wanna guess what number 1 is? If you said David, you'd be wrong. It's George from Heroes vs Villains. He had 158 confessionals this season. Second house was 92. Third was 66. The winner had 43. While you do have George being completely over-edited this season, to the point where I can't even be mad about it because he makes such good TV, the chart actually shows that everyone else's edit was not amazing, but they were fine. David and Jerry got a bit shafted, but other than that, I can't really complain about the editing on this season. Which is really fucking weird when you have someone like George taking up 20% of the total confessionals across the entire season. It's all in the way they over-edit it. I wouldn't be singing the same tune about Survivor Samoa, because I don't care about Russell, and he has nothing new to say. But George is such an engaging speaker, and he always has a fresh perspective on things that I just don't mind. Much better than hearing this.
I played this game strategically better than anybody, maybe in history.
For the 107th fucking time. And now that the 4 most unfairly edited seasons of the show are arguably the 4 best, makes me nervous for what I need to talk about next. Let's hope it's another good one and this trend continues. Never mind, it's Australian Survivor All-Stars, which has 49.97% of its confessionals misallocated. It's only 1 percentage point off of Australian Survivor Heroes vs Villains, but man, this season is a slog to get through. Maybe it's because the winner is the one that completely overshadows everyone else? In Heroes vs Villains, we all knew it was nigh on impossible for George to actually make it to the end, despite having done it before, and that kept the season engaging. In All-Stars, who was opposing David? Brooke? I mean, she tried. There were really only 6 characters to root for in All-Stars. David, Shawnee, Moana, Harry, Nick, and Matt. Out of those 6, only 3 made it past the final 10. Nearly everyone else was completely under-edited. Sometimes having one compelling character works, but not an all-stars season. Not when we know and love these characters and their legacies. This feels disrespectful. If infamous camera hog AK ends up under-edited on your season, I think it's safe to say you've done something wrong. We're truly in the weeds now, boys. Let's see if our next season is much better. Motherfucker, it's Australian Survivor Blood vs. Water. Fun fact, this season and Survivor 44 are the only 2 seasons of Survivor I've ever stopped partway through. I started both of them, 44 just got too claustrophobic for me around Mergatory, and Blood vs. Water bored me to tears. Only 48.78% of the confessionals are misallocated, which is an extremely marginal improvement on All Stars. But now you've got main characters with no life behind them. 2 of the biggest main characters are Sam and Mark, and for some reason, I don't think they're likely to turn on each other anytime soon. I don't know, something about it, can't quite put my finger on it. Beyond that, we've got Geordie? Man, I really have nothing to say about this season. I think what this shows me is that the dynamic between your biggest characters plays a much bigger role in the season than whether or not the edit is actually even. George vs. Haley? Iconic. Kirby vs. Ferris? Give me more. Sam and Mark vs. Geordie? Nah, I'm good. Let's move on. Please. As far as the evenness of the edit goes, Australian Survivor Champions vs. Contenders 1 is a dramatic improvement on everything we've seen so far. We jumped from 48.78% of confessionals being misallocated in Blood vs. Water to only 37.94% here. This is definitely the most evenly edited Final 4 of the entire series so far. Every single contestant is pretty close to having what I would call the perfect edit for the season. Even our most over-edited contestant in Benji, he's not that egregious compared to what would come later. It is very funny looking at the confessional chart though. My man really said 0.000086413. Like, whoa dude, calm down. I also quite enjoy seeing our 3rd most over-edited contestant being voted out 2nd. That's funny to me. It being Russell makes it even funnier. The season is far from perfect though. The under-editing of some castaways is egregious. But am I really mad about Monica getting 15 confessionals? Well, that's the thing. I don't know. How could I know? She only got 15 confessionals. I have no basis to know whether or not I should be mad we didn't get more of her. I am mad we didn't get to see more of Samuel though. Look, I pretty clearly have a type of Survivor player that speaks to me. Let he who is without sin cast the first shot in the dark, or whatever the fuck Coates said. This was seen as the best season of Australian Survivor for a while, and a testament to the fact that US Survivor didn't hold all the cards. At number 2, we have Australian Survivor 2017, with only 35.78% of its confessionals being misallocated. Is the edit perfect? No. Tara, AK, and Henry, no, the other Henry, all got a bit too much. Jared, Odette, Ben, and Peter all got quite a bit too little. Luke also got a bit too much, but if anyone's going to be over-edited in a season, I'm glad they choose someone as entertaining as Luke instead of fucking Sam or something. Everyone else's edit was pretty good. It was certainly an evenly told story, and while there were some people we were sure could never win, especially by the time we got to Final 3, it was still a fun and engaging ride the entire time. Was it a more fun and engaging ride than Titans vs Rebels, Brain vs Brawn, or Heroes vs Villains? I think I'll leave that proof as an exercise for the viewer. We still have one more season to talk about, and it's an interesting one. Claiming the spot for most evenly edited season based on a completely arbitrary formula concocted by some PhD student in his room one night, we have Australian Survivor 2016, with only 23.2% of its confessionals being misallocated. Honestly, this is an impressive feat. I haven't run the numbers, but I wouldn't be surprised if this wound up being one of the most evenly edited seasons of Survivor just ever. And yet the season leaves me feeling so empty. Why is that? Is that 2 out of the 3 finalists are pretty under-edited and our remaining finalist is not that over-edited, all things considered? Is it the fact that the 2 most over-edited characters of the season, Nick and Phoebe, are both gone by the final 10? Is it the fact that I'm still waiting on Sue's big move? Come on, Sue. Bring Sue back. Let her make her big move. I'm not sure, but I am interested to hear your thoughts. And it is, statistically at least, the most evenly edited season of Australian Survivor. And it's certainly proof that an even edit is not what makes a season good. So here's our ranking of each season based on the evenness of the edit. Just for fun, here's how I'd rank the season based on my own personal enjoyment. Certainly feels a bit like an inverse rule going on here. Maybe these 2 lists tell us a lot about who I am as a Survivor viewer. And maybe your own personal rankings will tell us about what you value as a Survivor fan. Are you after an evenly edited season? Are you after a compelling set of main characters? Do you think we can have both? Do you think my math was just missing something? Please let me know in the comments below, and let me know if you want to see more videos like this. Until next time, I've been Henry Hickman Survivor, and I'll see you at that weird termite hill where David found his hidden immunity idol. Like, how did production hide it there? Weren't they worried termites might eat it?